Hello, welcome to our session today. My name is Nicolaos Theodossiou. I'm a professor at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in Greece, the Department of Civil Engineering. But I'm also the chair of one of the United Nations networks focusing on the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. These networks are called Sustainable Development Solutions Networks, and their purpose is to provide solutions for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Our network refers to the wider area of the Black Sea. It comprises 12 countries, most of the Balkan countries and all the countries all around the Black Sea. And our goal is to unite the research that is performed within these universities in the direction of assisting governments and organizations to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. These networks operate under the auspices of the Secretary General of the United Nations and under the global direction of Professor Jeffrey Sachs, professor at the Columbia University in New York. Our task is to find innovative solutions to implement the SDGs, because the United Nations think that what we have up to now, the technology that we have up to now, is not enough to proceed to the implementation of the goals and to be able to achieve the implementation of the goals by 2030 or 2050, depending on the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is where we come in as universities and try to introduce the research that we do and the ways that we include our students and the societies that are part of the universities, of course, in this global goal of implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. As you can understand, this is a very complex network. These 12 countries cover a very wide area. It's a very interesting area. The Black Sea has always been a very interesting and challenging area throughout history, but you can understand that even the current developments and the status of the war in Ukraine make things even more complicated than they are anyway. So, as I said, our goal is to find ways to implement the Sustainable Development Goals. And one of the problems that we have is that we need to understand the status that every country has achieved until now in this process of the implementation of the SDGs. So we need to realize and we need to acknowledge, besides these 17 goals, the 169 targets and some hundreds of indicators that are used to measure the achievements of the SDGs, where we stand and where we need to focus on in order to be able to proceed in this difficult pathway. We had the opportunity 2 years ago to be funded by the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization in collaboration with the Financial University under the government of Russia to have a joint collaboration and to develop a feasibility study for the possibility of establishing an SDGs Observatory for the wider area of the Black Sea. And we finished our feasibility study last year, but I think it will be better to ask my colleague, Professor Grigoris Zarotiadis, who was the scientific responsible for this project, to say a few things about this process, this implementation.
Thanks a lot, Nico, for the opportunity, and also special thanks to Ideagen for arranging this session. It is true that a prerequisite in order to be able to support the implementation of SDGs from the side of the private, but also from the side of the public sector of the states, is to have a clear view of the way how we proceed with the realization of the initially set goals. And this is majorly the reason why we thought in the SDSN Black Sea of the necessity to proceed with the creation, with the establishment of an observatory for SDGs in this very crucial, in terms of geopolitical, of environmental, of socioeconomic aspects, area, the area of the Black Sea and the surrounding countries and regions. As Nicolaos Theodossiou mentioned, the realization of the specific project, starting with a feasibility study, so to say, with an extended business plan of how an observatory can be created and also function. This project was based upon the support of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, and we are in a pleasant situation where we can now present the full content of this very important study, which brings us into the stage of establishing, we hope in the very next future, the observatory and contributing thereby in the realization of the goals, as we said at the beginning. Allow me just a few words about the content of the feasibility study. In the first part, it is a purely informative, so to say, scientific part of the study, where we try to present the existing databases that relate to the realization of the goals of SDGs in the specific area, to check where there are lacks of information or areas where we need to work with bringing the different databases from the different countries at the same pace. And also there is a discussion there about the platform that we need to establish in order to be able to produce the data we need, and to produce also the results of the observation, the statistical results in the most accurate and the most efficient way. In the second part of the study, we are proceeding with the discussion of the administrative issues and the way how the observatory will be efficient, but also based upon the necessary support of the participating countries in BSEC, in the Black Sea Economic Cooperation. And moreover, we proceed also with discussing the different segments, the different directories of the observatory, and thereby also discussing the different services that will be provided. Here it is important to mention that we will have three major activities in the observatory realized. The first one, as I said in the beginning, is the scientific, the reporting aspect of our activities, where through the use and the calculation based upon the existing data, we will be able to proceed with periodical reports on specific aspects of the SDGs, from the socioeconomic sustainability issues, but also from the part of the environmental sustainability issues. Then in the second area of activities, we proceed with services which have to do with raising the awareness of the societies around the Black Sea, and also services that are in the direction of providing the necessary information, the necessary skills, the necessary knowledge to the people, to the staff of in the private sector, but also in the public sector and in the states of the area, people and staff who are involved in activities which are related to the realization of the SDGs. So the first one is the reporting, so to say. The second is the provision of information and educational services. The third aspect is also very important. There we want to provide specific services for private sector entities and also for public sector entities in the direction of supporting these entities towards the realization of the SDGs. Allow me just to give you an example in this direction, which is based upon analog experiences from Europe and from other SDGs, regional SDGs. What we have planned to do is to provide services in the direction of supporting big entities in the private sector, but also states and public entities towards the issuing of the so-called green and blue bonds, so to say, bonds which are in a pragmatic way issued in order to cover activities, investments, actions, and projects for the realization of the SDGs, and thereby to give the possibility to the international financial system to provide the means that are important for big entities in the private sector, but also for public entities, so that we will have the realization of projects so much needed and important for the SDGs. Finally, just a word in the last part of the observatory, because this is also very important. We proceeded with the financial plan for the establishment of the observatory and for the functioning of it, and with relevant feasible ways of financing the establishment, we found out that we would be able to proceed with the functioning of the observatory and the first results of our work that we would like to have them within the next year. So I think that these are the main information with respect to this project, and we expect to have as strong impact as possible for the realization of the SDGs in the specific, very important area, in the area of the Black Sea.
Thank you, Grigoris. And I would just like to emphasize a couple of things on these very interesting aspects and perspectives that Professor Zarotiadis mentioned. We need to have a global, not a global, a regional observatory in order to achieve all these, because these are different countries with different mentality and different ways of recording and reporting their progress on the implementation of the SDGs. They have different mechanisms. They have different kinds of data that they use. So we need to have an organization that will act as a coordinating organization in order to help these countries provide the necessary data so that everyone can understand their status in this very complex process. So this is why we need to have this observatory that will guide, assist, and support the countries in this process of recording and reporting their status in the implementation of the SDGs. Until now, this is done by the statistical services of the countries and by some international organizations that collect data for their own purposes, and also from the voluntary reports that some of the countries have proceeded and introduced in this recognition of their status in the implementation of the SDGs. What we are trying to do is to break barriers, to break the existing barriers between these countries, and there are a lot of barriers, especially for this region. And we are trying to be the connecting link between these countries and the United Nations and the global community, so that we can all proceed with the same way, with the same pace in this process. Once we understand our weaknesses and our strengths as a region, as a regional network, then it will be much easier, much more effective to gain from each other's experience and to be able to provide what is needed to understand our status and to understand what our next steps will be. And there are a lot of prospects and a lot of ideas that can be implemented in this region, like the blue and the green bonds that Professor Zarotiadis already mentioned. This is something that will be for the benefit of the region, but also for the whole world, because we can understand that the status, the current status, or the future status of the Black Sea is of utmost important, and I'm sure that we all understand it during the current situation that we are going through.
Nico, it's perfectly correct what you said. Allow me just only, although it was mentioned by you as well, to stress out the significance of the fact that we are dealing with a very sensitive area, an area which is the margin in the Eurasian socioeconomic and geopolitical region, and thereby can be both, can be an area of problems, but in the frame, according to the logic of the SDGs, should be an area of collaboration and of connectivity. In this direction, I think that the functioning of the SDSN, but also the SDSN Black Sea, but also the specific observatory will strengthen the collaboration at the state level, as it is already done through the efforts of BSEC, of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, but moreover also the collaboration between scientists, between institutions of academic institutions and scientific institutions, and this networking is something that we will be very pleased if we can sustain and create and sustain. In any case, also I want to say that beside to, as we said, to the reporting of the data and of the actual situation with respect to SDGs, awareness raising, as already mentioned, and providing seminars and educational services, as well as directly services to the actually functioning and intervening entities, is very important for our goal.
Yes, of course. These networks mostly comprise universities, so both research and education are the main strengths of this of the participants, of our members as SDSN Black Sea, and I'm sure that no one will argue that through education we can achieve a lot. And if we manage to educate people, we bring them together, because knowledge is power, knowledge is strength, and the knowledge can solve a lot of problems that other ways and other means of implementations use, and they are not so effective, like the current war, for example. If people were able to understand and to know each other better, I think we could avoid such difficult and unpleasant situations.
As you oftenly say, and in your presentations, the discussions that we have oftenly, we are lacking of time. So therefore, we need to go in both directions, in activities which have a medium, longer run orientation, like education and services in collaboration of the youth, because again, those are activities that will show their very important, very deep grounded results, nevertheless in some years to follow. But also we need to proceed with activities that will have specific results and effects right now. Time is not on our side, but I think that imagination, science, and willingness is on our side, and we will proceed in this direction.
Exactly, and that's I think it's a perfect way to close this discussion. I would like to thank on my part Ideagen for giving us the floor and the opportunity to have this discussion, to have this open discussion, and be able to address what we are trying to do and what our vision is. But this is not just our vision; it's a vision for the area. It's a vision for the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.